What if the hardest part of getting older isn't what people assume, but something far more invisible? Aging brings its fair share of challenges, but the real difficulties often aren't the ones people talk about. They're not just about aching joints or slower reflexes. They're quieter, more emotional, and often unexpected. You might be navigating them right now without even realizing how common they really are. And yet, very few people prepare us for these parts of life. Friends might not mention it. Family might not notice. But as the years pass, the weight of these unspoken struggles starts to build. In this video, we're diving into 5 of the hardest parts of getting older, things that many seniors silently endure but rarely share out loud. From the shifting sense of purpose to the quiet grief of watching loved ones fade, each of these challenges touches something deep inside. By bringing them into the light, we're not just naming the pain, we're giving ourselves a chance to heal, to grow, and to face these years with courage and clarity. Stay with us until the end, because acknowledging these 5 realities could shift the way you view your own aging and help you handle it with more compassion, strength, and peace. Now let's begin. Number 1. Losing your sense of purpose. One of the most difficult and least talked about parts of aging is the slow fading of a clear sense of purpose. When you're younger, your days are filled with responsibilities. Raising kids, building a career, maintaining a household, staying active in your community. Your role in the world feels defined. You wake up each morning knowing what's expected of you and who needs you. But as time passes, those roles start to shift. Children grow up and become independent. Careers end in retirement. Social circles change. And suddenly, you're left wondering, what now? This transition often comes with a quiet heaviness. For many older adults, the structure and momentum that once gave life its meaning start to dissolve. You may find yourself with more free time than ever before, but less clarity about how to fill it. Days become repetitive, even aimless, without someone depending on you or a task that gives you drive. It's easy to feel unmoored, like you're floating through time without an anchor. Psychologically, this loss of purpose can deeply affect your well-being. Research shows that having a reason to get out of bed each morning is directly tied to mental clarity, emotional stability, and even physical health. When that purpose disappears, it can open the door to feelings of sadness, restlessness, and low motivation. Even seniors who seem cheerful on the outside often wrestle with this silent question: am I still needed? What makes this challenge even harder is how invisible it can be. Friends might tell you to enjoy your retirement. Family might say you've earned your rest. But inside, you might be craving more than rest. You might be craving relevance. The feeling that your presence still makes a difference in someone's life, that your words still carry weight, and that your actions still matter. Take someone like Walter, a 76-year-old who spent 40 years running his own hardware store. After he sold the business and stepped away from day-to-day life, the first few months felt like a relief. No early mornings, no schedules. But over time, he began to miss the small interactions with customers, the sense of solving problems, the rhythm of having somewhere to be. He wasn't just bored. He felt disconnected from the person he used to be. It wasn't until he started volunteering at a local school, helping kids with woodworking, that he began to feel that sense of contribution. Again, this is the truth many don't tell you. After decades of being useful, aging can make you feel invisible to the world, and even to yourself. But just because the old roles are gone, doesn't mean new ones can't emerge. The key is recognizing that purpose doesn't have to be grand or dramatic. It can be found in the smallest acts of connection, generosity, or creativity. Whether it's mentoring someone, caring for a garden, or simply being a steady presence for someone in need. Those quiet contributions can restore that inner sense of meaning. So, if you've felt this inner shift, this quiet ache for direction, you're not alone. It's one of the hardest parts of getting older, and it deserves more honesty, more compassion, and more conversation. Because even though the world may not say it often enough, your purpose doesn't end with age. It just evolves, and finding that new rhythm takes time, patience, and the belief that your life still holds great value every single day. Number 2, watching friends and loved ones pass away. There's a quiet sorrow that comes with getting older, one that most people don't talk about until it's already happening, and that's the experience of losing the people you've shared your life with. Over time, birthdays come and go, and so do the voices at the table. The friends you used to call every week might not pick up anymore, not because they don't care, but because they're no longer here. And little by little, the world you once knew starts to feel unfamiliar. This kind of loss is not always dramatic or sudden. Often it's slow and steady. A neighbor passes, then a sibling, then your best friend from high school. At first, you grieve deeply, but after a while, something else begins to settle in, a quiet kind of emptiness. It's not just the people you miss. It's the shared memories, the private jokes, the feeling of being truly known by someone who's walked beside you for decades. And this grief doesn't always go away. It just changes form. You might still reach for the phone before remembering there's no one to call. You might still imagine that person's reaction to a story, only to feel that ache again when you realize they're gone. What makes this even harder is that the world doesn't pause. New generations rise, conversations shift, and suddenly, your history starts to feel like just that history, psychologically. This slow layering of grief can affect everything from your mood to your sense of identity. When people who have known you for most of your life disappear, it can feel like parts of yourself are disappearing, too. And even when family or caregivers offer support, there's a kind of loneliness that only the loss of peers can bring. Because those people didn't just know you, they understood you. Consider Evelyn, age 84. Over the past 10 years, she lost her husband, 2 sisters, and her closest friend from church. She still goes about her routine reading, gardening, attending community events. But as she puts it, the silence follows me. It's not that she's completely alone. It's that the people who made her feel most like herself are no longer here to remind her who that is. And that's a type of grief that lingers. This isn't something that can be fixed with a phone call or a new hobby. It's deeper than that. It's about accepting that part of aging means carrying the weight of memories when others can't carry them with you anymore. But in that truth also lies something important. Your memory of those people keeps them alive in some way. The way you speak their names, the fuss and stubbornness, the stories you pass down, the values you still carry, all of it honors them. So if you found yourself quietly missing someone more than usual, or if certain days feel heavier than others, know that what you're feeling is valid. This is one of the hardest parts of aging, saying goodbye again and again. But each goodbye is also a sign of a life deeply lived, of love deeply shared, and that in itself is something to hold close. If you're still watching this video and finding these insights valuable, please comment number 2 below to let me know you're here. And if you haven't subscribed yet, I recommend you subscribe and turn on the bell so you don't miss any videos. Your support helps us continue creating good content to inform and inspire you. Now, let's move forward. Number 3, feeling invisible in society as you age. There comes a moment when you begin to realize that the world doesn't see you the same way it used to. It's not always intentional or cruel. It's often subtle, quiet, even polite. But the result is the same. You start to feel invisible. You notice it when clerks talk to your adult children instead of you, when doctors rush through appointments, when people assume you have nothing new to offer. And over time, this repeated sense of being overlooked chips away at something very real, your sense of dignity. This isn't about craving attention. It's about being acknowledged as a thinking, feeling, relevant person. Because no matter how many years pass, you still have thoughts, preferences, and experiences that matter. But in a world that moves fast, values youth, and chases trends, older adults are often treated as if they've already had their turn, and now it's time to step aside. That message may not be spoken out loud, but it's felt in 100 small interactions each week, and the psychological toll is heavier than most people think. Feeling invisible can lead to social withdrawal, low self-esteem, and a deep sense of loneliness. Even when you're not physically alone, you might start questioning whether your opinions still count, whether anyone truly listens, or whether the life you've lived holds any value in today's world. That kind of emotional erosion doesn't happen overnight, but once it takes root, it's hard to ignore. Take Henry, for instance. He's 80 years old, a retired teacher, and still sharp as ever. But he shared that whenever he visits his local coffee shop, the cashier addresses his grandson instead of him. Even when Henry places the order, they'll turn to the younger man for confirmation. At first, he laughed it off, but over time, he stopped going altogether. He said, "It felt like I was disappearing in front of their eyes." And sadly, his experience isn't rare. One of the most painful parts about this form of invisibility is that it's not always hostile. It's often wrapped in politeness. People might call you dear or sweetheart without asking your name. They might speak slowly, not realizing you hear just fine. They might assume you're out of touch, when in fact, you've lived through things they can't even imagine. And each of those moments, while small on the surface, adds up to a powerful message. You don't matter as much anymore. But here's the truth. Just because society forgets to look your way doesn't mean you've lost your worth. In fact, your life experience gives you a depth and wisdom that younger generations deeply need, even if they don't always know how to ask for it. And while the world may not change overnight, your voice still carries weight. Whether you speak up in a conversation, share your story, or simply show up with quiet confidence, you're reminding others that aging doesn't erase value, it reveals it. So, if you've felt that subtle fading, that strange sense that you're no longer being fully seen, know that you're not imagining it, and you're not alone. It's one of the hardest parts of getting older. But it's also a call to stand tall, to share more, and to never let the world forget that you're still here, still present, and still full of life. Number 4. Physical decline that limits freedom. 1. Of the most humbling and frustrating parts of aging is the slow decline of physical ability. It starts with small changes, getting winded more easily, noticing stiffness in your knees, or having trouble with tasks that used to be second nature. But over time, these small inconveniences can grow into larger challenges that begin to limit your sense of freedom. You find yourself hesitating before walking too far, thinking twice about lifting something heavy, or avoiding stairs that you used to climb without a second thought. This isn't just about physical strength, it's about independence. When your body doesn't cooperate the way it used to, it forces you to reconsider how you move through the world. Suddenly, driving at night feels risky. Grocery shopping alone becomes exhausting. Even simple tasks like tying your shoes or reaching a high shelf come with hesitation. And for many older adults, that realization isn't just inconvenient, it's emotionally painful. Because deep down, what's being challenged isn't just your mobility, it's your identity. For decades, you were capable, active, and in control. You took care of others, managed your home, and moved freely. So, when your body starts sending signals that it needs help, it can feel like a betrayal. It's as if the version of yourself that you've always known is slipping away, replaced by someone who has to ask for assistance more often than they'd like. And that shift can come with a flood of emotions: frustration, embarrassment, even shame. It's common to want to hide these changes, to brush them off, or pretend they're not as bad as they are. But the truth is, these feelings are valid. It's hard to admit that walking across a parking lot feels harder this year than last. It's hard to accept that you have to rest more often, or avoid long outings altogether. Take Linda, a 75-year-old, who used to be an avid gardener and walker. She told her daughter she stopped going to the community garden, not because she lost interest, but because the bending and lifting were too much for her knees. But she didn't want to say that out loud. She didn't want to admit that something she loved had become something that made her feel weak. That's the silent grief many seniors carry, not just the loss of strength, but the loss of the activities and places that once brought them joy. And yet, there's another side to this. While physical changes are real and sometimes limiting, they also invite us to adapt. Slowing down doesn't mean giving up. It means learning new ways to care for your body and stay connected to what matters, maybe. It's using a walking stick without shame or switching to lighter tasks that still bring fulfillment. Maybe it's asking for help in a way that feels empowering, not helpless. Modern aging is not about pretending we're still 30. It's about being honest with where we are and making thoughtful choices to stay safe, strong, and supported. That might mean physical therapy, mobility aids, or just a slower pace. None of that makes you less capable. It makes you wise. Because the goal isn't to keep up with who you used to be. It's to take care of the person you are today. If you're still watching this video and finding these insights valuable, please comment number 4 below to let me know you're here. And if you haven't subscribed yet, I recommend you subscribe. And turn on the bell so you don't miss any videos. Your support helps us continue creating good content to inform and inspire you. Now, let's move forward. Number 5. Fear of being a burden. As we age, one of the heaviest emotional weights many older adults carry is the fear of becoming a burden to others. It's not always spoken out loud, but it lingers quietly in the back of the mind during hospital visits, when asking for a ride, or even while needing help with simple tasks around the house. This fear doesn't come from weakness or helplessness. It comes from love, from pride, and from years of being the one who helped others first. For much of your life, you may have been the caretaker, the decision maker, the strong one. You cooked meals, fixed problems, raised children, supported friends, and held everything together, and now, needing assistance, even occasionally, can feel like you're reversing roles in a way that's uncomfortable. It's not that your family doesn't love you. It's that you don't want to feel like you're asking too much or taking up too much space. This fear can lead to silence. You might downplay your pain, avoid asking for help, or pretend you're doing better than you really are, just to spare your loved ones any inconvenience. But holding back like this can create a quiet kind of isolation. You become hesitant to express your needs, even when those needs are legitimate. And over time, that can lead to emotional distance between you and the people who care about you most. There's also a deep psychological layer to this. The fear of being a burden is often tied to self-worth. When you feel like you're no longer contributing in the ways you once did, it's easy to question your value. You might start seeing yourself through a distorted lens, less as a parent or a friend and more as a problem to be managed. That kind of thinking is painful, and it's often completely untrue. But in a culture that prizes independence, it's an easy trap to fall into. Let's look at someone like Raymond, an 82-year-old who now uses a walker and needs help with groceries once a week. His daughter Jenna visits every Friday without fail, and she insists she loves doing it. But Raymond still apologizes every time. He says, "I hate that I need this much help. I don't want to be a bother." And Jenna, like many adult children, always replies, "Dad, you were there for me my whole life. This is nothing compared to that." But the feeling persists. That's the quiet struggle. Even when support is freely offered, even when your loved ones reassure you, there can still be a nagging sense that you're taking more than you're giving. And yet, what many people don't realize is that your presence alone has value. The wisdom you share, the history you carry, the steady love you offer, it matters more than you know. You're not just someone to care for. You're someone whose life continues to shape the people around you in powerful ways. What helps ease this fear is open conversation, letting people know how you feel, asking for help when you need it, and reminding yourself that relationships go both ways. These things can make a world of difference, because while you may not always be able to give in the same ways you once did, your impact continues through your presence, your stories, your kindness, and your resilience. The truth is, aging doesn't make you a burden. It makes you human. And being human means sometimes needing help and sometimes giving it. That's what makes relationships beautiful. They're built on mutual care, not perfect balance. So if you've carried this fear quietly, it's time to set it down. You are not a burden, you are a blessing. And the people who truly love you already know that. Final thoughts. As we come to the end of this video, I want to take a moment to acknowledge something important. If any of these 5 challenges felt familiar to you, you're not alone, and you're not failing. These are some of the hardest parts of getting older. Not because you're doing anything wrong, but because life at this stage carries weight. Most people don't see losing your sense of purpose, saying goodbye to loved ones, feeling invisible, adjusting to physical changes, and fearing that you're a burden. These are deeply human experiences, and yet they're often carried in silence. What we've shared today isn't meant to dwell on sadness, but to give you language for what you may already feel, because sometimes just putting words to the heaviness can make it feel lighter. These aren't weaknesses. They're signs of a life fully lived, a life filled with love, service, movement, relationships, and responsibility. The challenges that come in later years are not proof that you've lost your value. They're proof that you've given so much of yourself for so long, and here's the truth that often gets lost in the noise of a youth-focused world. Your value doesn't diminish with age. In fact, your presence is more important now than ever. Your voice carries wisdom. Your story holds meaning. Your ability to keep showing up, despite the grief, the frustration, the aches, and the fears, is a quiet act of courage. That strength, even when unspoken, is something to be proud of. So as you navigate these hard parts of aging, give yourself permission to feel what you feel. Grieve when you need to. Rest when you need to. But also keep looking for the beauty that still exists in your life. The moments of connection, the sound of laughter, the small victories, the kindness of a stranger, or the comfort of a familiar routine. Those things matter. They're what carry you forward. And if you ever catch yourself thinking, no one tells you how hard this is, remember this video. You've heard it now. And in hearing it, you've taken the first step toward facing it with clarity and compassion. Keep talking, because you are still needed, still loved, and still capable of growth at every age. Thank you for joining us today. We'd love to hear from you. Leave a comment below and share one thing you learned today and how you plan to use it in your life. Your thoughts are important to us, so don't hesitate to share them. Reading your comments gives us great motivation and encouragement. If you enjoyed this video and found it helpful, please like, subscribe, and share. Your support helps us continue creating good content to inform and inspire you. Thanks for watching, and we look forward to seeing you in the next video.